Plumbing companies lose somewhere between $50 and $120,000 a year to missed calls. It's not due to bad marketing. It's not due to bad service. It's due to missed calls. And the worst part is most of them don't even know that it's happening. So today I'm going to show you 3 voice agents that were built specifically for plumbers that solve the 3 biggest problems in the business: missed calls during the day, missed emergencies after hours, and a database that's full of past customers that no one's calling. So let's get into it. Here's what's actually happening in most plumbing companies right now. Your guys are out on jobs, they're under a house, hands are covered in, PVC cement, crawling through a crawl space. The phone starts to ring and there's no one there to answer the phone. This isn't, a discipline issue. This is a physics problem. You can't pick up the phone when, you're elbow deep in a drain line, right? So the data on this is actually pretty brutal. Plumbing companies miss anywhere from 27 to 40% of their calls during business hours. And 78% of those callers are not going to leave you a voicemail. They're calling the next plumber that's showing up on Google, right? That call is worth somewhere between $500 or $1,200, and it just walked, straight to your competitor. So one plumber that we actually looked at was missing 76 calls in a single month, and they had no idea until we actually presented the numbers. So now if you multiply that by what happens after hours, 68% of plumbing emergencies happen outside of business hours. So things like your, pipes burst, water heater failures, flooding basements. These are the highest margin calls in the entire business. Emergency jobs can run anywhere from $500 for a leak or, $3,500 for a water heater replacement. And the customer with water pouring across their floor at 2:00 in the morning is not leaving you a voicemail. They're calling every single plumber they can find until somebody picks up, and whoever answers first gets the job. And then there's a third problem that nobody talks about, right? It's your past customers. Most plumbing companies have hundreds, sometimes thousands of customers that sit in their system who haven't been contacted in over a year. 65% of customers forget their plumber's name after 6 months. But here's the thing. Past customers are 10 times, that's right, 10 times more likely to book than a cold lead, and they spend 31% more. So acquiring a new customer costs, $75 to $400. Reactivating an old one costs almost nothing. So you've got calls you can't answer, emergencies going to voicemail, and basically a gold mine of past customers that are literally just sitting there collecting dust, going to other plumbers. 3 problems, and you've got 3 agents. So let's hop into what those 3 agents are. The first agent that we're going to go over is Jennifer. She is your general inquiry agent, okay? She handles inbound calls around the clock. So when someone calls your business, Jennifer picks up. She figures out what they need, collects the address, what their issue is, their availability. She'll answer common questions like, pricing, service areas, and how soon someone might be able to come out and help. All of that comes from a knowledge base loaded with your actual business info and a calendar that will connect to the agent so that she can actually see what the availability looks like. And then what she'll do is she'll book the appointment and send a confirmation text. Okay, so there's no hold time, there's no voicemail, no calling back 4 hours later when they've already booked somewhere else. This alone solves the biggest revenue leak in a business. The average contractor takes 4.2 hours to call someone back. 4.2 hours. By that point, 67% of callers have already hired someone else. Jennifer answers on the very first ring, or however many rings you want to set it up as, every single time. It doesn't matter if it's noon on a Tuesday or 2:00, in the morning on a Saturday, right? She's not there to replace your staff. She's there to cover the gaps. When your team's busy, like on another line, when the office is closed or someone's out on lunch, every call will still get answered and every lead will still get captured, okay? And this bridges us to our second agent, okay, which is Maria. She is the triage agent, the emergency triage agent. You can name them whatever you want, right? I just chose Maria for this example. So, she's there for one reason and one reason only, which is emergencies. So when someone calls about a burst pipe, or no hot water or flooding in their basement, Maria picks up instantly. She identifies the urgency, collects the address, and any other details needed, and she'll transfer the call straight to whoever's on call. No menu, no hold, straight through. This matters because emergency calls are the most profitable jobs in plumbing, and they're the ones most likely to be lost. So if someone's basement's flooding at 2:00 in the morning and your phone goes to voicemail, guess what? Chances are they're not waiting. They're calling the next company or the next person and the next person until someone answers. So Maria makes sure that that someone is always you. So she knows the difference between when someone's calling to ask about a leaky faucet next week and someone who needs a truck rolled right now. The non-emergencies get handled normally. The real emergencies get transferred instantly, to the right person. So that, one call she catches on a Sunday morning could be a $2,000 water heater replacement that, otherwise would have gone to someone else, like your competitor, right? So that covers our 2 inbound agents and what their purposes are. So we'll lead into the outbound agent now, which is Sarah. This is your reactivation agent. And like I said, she is primarily an outbound agent. So what she'll do is she'll take your past customers that you upload, as like a list, a CSV. You can set a calling window or she can do it, and Sarah will start reaching out. So she'll ideally contact people who haven't been booked in 6 months or a year, 2 years, however long you want to set that window. She reminds them that they're due for maintenance, checks if they've got any issues they've been putting off, and books them in. This is the one most plumbing companies completely ignore, and it might be the highest ROI of all 3. So it's really important to pay attention to those customers that you've already dealt with in the past, because again, they're much more likely to book with you, they know you, and they're much more likely to spend more money with you. So Sarah runs these as campaigns. You set the batch size, how many people you want to call every day or every hour. You can set the calling windows. So I want to call them from 9 to 5 a.m. or 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day, the days of the week. So if you just want to call people on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, or Monday through Friday, you can set those windows properly. And there's also, within AgentVoice, you can set up DNC compliance. So if you want to check that these people are not on the, do not call registry, which if they're your past customers and you're doing check-ins on them, a lot of that is allowed because it's not necessarily marketing. It's part of the service. And so, you're not calling people who you shouldn't be. But in this event, if you already dealt with them in the past, then you've got a great lead to go ahead and follow up with them. So thinking about, what that looks like before a busy season, it's March, summer's coming. You upload every customer from last summer who got an AC or water heater work done. Sarah calls all of them in a week. Your June schedule fills up before you spend $1 on ads. So those are the 3 primary agents. That's the setup. Jennifer catches every inbound call and books jobs around the clock. Maria's the one that handles emergencies, gets them to your on-call team immediately. And Sarah works your past customer list and fills your calendar with repeat business. 3 agents with 3 big problems solved. They run 24/7 inside one workspace. You've got all your calls logged, summarized, and searchable. So there's no more missed calls going to voicemail. No more emergencies that were lost at 2 o'clock in the morning. No more past customers sitting in your database who have forgotten your name. And if you're a plumber or you work with plumbing companies that, this is what a real AI voice deployment looks like. Not one generic agent trying to do everything. It's 3 agents built for a specific job working together to cover the full call life cycle. So the companies that answer every call and stay in front of their past customers are the ones that grow. So if you're a plumber or you own a plumbing business or you're trying to build agents for plumbers, then I highly recommend that you check out some of my other videos about how to build agents from the ground up, or you can just create an account on AgentVoice where it's completely free to get started. And we have a workspace agent there that knows how to help you build agents from the ground up with very minimal involvement from your end. It can write the scripts for you. It can set the phone numbers up for you, any transfers that the agent needs to be able to make. All those settings can be built from the ground up. And if you want this pack of 3 agents that were built for plumbers, then just comment pack below and I'll send you a link where you can download them and upload them straight into AgentVoice. Has all the details about them and everything. You can get started literally within the first minute. And other than that, I hope that you liked this video and you got some information out of it. And if you don't mind liking, sharing, and subscribing, it really does help me and it helps AgentVoice continue what we're doing. And thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.